In the middle of the war, when the gods of war were turning against German troops, what was Hitler doing? Actually, we would think he was with military authorities trying to draw new plans for attacking the Russian and the Allied. No, he was discussing with Goebbels and others the different painting to be shown at some exhibit. He was choosing also some painting and bought them for his own collection. He was discussing with architects details of building that luckily were never built. And when you read it, or think about it at first sight, you feel, but that doesn't make any sense. Well, it doesn't. It absolutely doesn't, except if you read the book of Professor Cater, explaining, demonstrating, illustrating the central place that manipulating the culture was at the heart of the Nazi message and manipulation of the masses. So here is Professor Cater to start making the explanation. Thank you. I'm not too far out.
Something for I have to smile, which is difficult for me. I don't know why, but it is. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Alain. Thank you for the foundation, to the foundation and the awards committee. I'm honored to be here today. My book is about how the Nazis tried to set up their own culture in order to penetrate Germans' minds. Much of this, of course, would have to do with anti-Semitism. But in order to set up their own culture, they had to destroy the old culture, much of which went back to the Weimar Republic and before that. Now, what to do with the Jews who were still in Germany? Well, they were put into a Kulturbund, a Jüdischer Kulturbund, a Jewish culture league, and here they could try and see what they might do with their own songs and so on and so forth. Well, the idea was to ghettoize them and then have them ready for shipment to the camps during the war. The Culture League was destroyed in 1941, and all the Jews were dispersed. Now, a few Jews managed to remain outside the Culture League and more or less ply their own ways, their own culture, including one of the forbidden fruits in Nazi Germany, and that was jazz, because it was invented by the Negroes and honed by the Jews, all right? One of the characters who still remained playing jazz was Heinz Schumann, whose very short story I shall relate, Heinz Coco Schumann, whom I met in Berlin in the late 1980s when he was back there from Auschwitz. He died about 3 years ago or 2 years ago at the age of 97. Schumann's father, Alfred, was an Aryan, a carpenter with a World War I record who converted to Judaism for the sake of his Jewish wife, Hedwig. Her father, Louis Rotholz, was the proprietor of a beauty salon in Berlin's Scheinenviertel, the barnyard quarter, where the poverty-stricken Jews lived, many Orthodox and originally hailing from the European East. Coco born in 1924, grew up in a Mosaic faith in the Scheunenviertel. He characterizes it in his memoirs, which have now come out. The Barnyard Quarter had a prickly atmosphere for roaming around. It was a poor but lively place where everyone had to see how he would get through the day. Immediately after Kristallnacht, or Crystal Night, the terrible pogrom of November 9, 10, and 1938, Coco tried his skill at his uncle's drum set, which he had left behind after fleeing from his hair salon on Alte Schönhauser Straße. Inspired by the legendary Weintraub Syncopators, the Weimar Republic most hailed jazz group, and all of them were Jewish, by 1940, Coco was servicing several of the clubs open for Wehrmacht soldiers around the Kurfürstendamm, Berlin's big drag, in various combos, casually switching to guitar. Jazz was neither officially forbidden nor expressly permitted. It was silently tolerated due to popular demand and for the sake of the armed forces' morale. Paradox here. By September 1941, Coco was compelled to wear the Yellow Star of David because he had celebrated Bar Mitzvah and because both his parents were counted as Jews, but he surreptitiously put it in his pocket. My blue eyes and Berlin wise guy talk did not fit the stereotype of the typical Jew, so he reminisces. After Goebbels' proclamation of total war in February 1943, the SS conducted a raid on Rosita Bar, Coco's gig, looking for deserters and miners. An SS man stood at the bandstand, clapping his hands in enthusiasm. This brought out the devil in Coco. I stood up and said, actually, you have to arrest me. The SS man looked bewildered. Why? Well, I'm a Jew. I'm playing swing and I'm a miner. He laughed out loud and could not stop laughing at the stupendous joke. The entire bar roared with him. However, in March of 1943, Coco Schumann was accused of failing to wear the Star of David, performing forbidden music, and seducing Aryan women. He was sent to Theresienstadt, about which we have just heard, and from there to Auschwitz. There he survived because at the selection ramp, the SS camp physician Joseph Mengele had chosen him for a work detail as a plumber. Yet he ended up playing a guitar left behind by condemned gypsies in one of the bands put together for the pleasure of the SS. On April 30th, 1945, the day of Hitler's suicide, Coco Schumann and a few other musicians who had survived, after a harrowing death march, found themselves in Bavarian Wolfratshausen just before their final liberation by the Americans. Music had saved his life. Thank you.